Welcome back to another episode of Charlotte Comedians Getting Coffee in Charlotte. I'm Nicole, your host. I am a local comic based in Charlotte, and today I've got with me my wonderful friend, Craig Collin. There he is. We're chilling out in Amelie's. We're trying to not cause a scene, so we're just gonna relax.
It's totally normal. You're looking over here, I'm looking over there.
Yeah.
We're gonna make
feel a little wall-eyed, honestly.
Yeah, it's
I do.
okay. I don't know where I'm supposed to look, but
Right. You could look here, you could look here, whatever you want to do.
Hi.
Yeah. Hello. Yes, exactly. So, Craig, what are you drinking?
Nicole has this cool little form when she books you on this thing that says, like, kind of, what do you like to drink? And I said, like, a frappuccino adjacent drink.
Yes, I got you a salted caramel mocha, but iced.
It's perfect.
Good.
For the record.
Wonderful.
I really like it.
Wonderful. And I got myself a little mocha because I'm going through a mocha phase right now.
It's perfect. I planned for this all day. I only had one cup of coffee this morning, and I usually am like a 3 giant Starbucks mug of coffee drinker.
Yeah,
and this is going to be the rest of my evening.
Wonderful. And as far as our desserts, I got us a little bit of tiramisu and vanilla eclair, two of my very favorite sweets here at all of the billion locations of Amelie's.
This is my dinner for the record.
Same.
So
it's my dinner. It's our dinner. We're having dinner with Craig.
That's right.
Yes.
There you go.
Amazing.
I'm just in it for the free food.
I love it. Okay, Craig, so if I could ask, go ahead and just tell me about yourself, how you got started doing stand-up, how long you've been doing stand-up.
Sure. I'm in my 4th year of stand-up right now. I had kind of a weird journey to stand-up where growing up, I was like a theater kid. I was in all the plays and did that through college as well. And then when I was about 25, I was still working my way through my last couple classes of college, and I got lymphoma in my 20s. And so I went through that treatment. That was like a year of chemo and radiation. Ended up moving across the country to North Carolina from Portland, Oregon. And my life kind of went on hold for a while because I got married, had kids, got cancer 5 more times. And then finally coming out of when the COVID-19 pandemic was wrapping up, I was ready to do something different in my life. And I'm a big comedy fan, been a big comedy fan my whole life. I've always used humor to kind of cope with situations, and that's what got me through all those rounds of chemo, all that radiation, all those surgeries. And I was like, I think I should try stand-up comedy. I need to get out of the house and do something. And I went to a couple of comedy open mics, and I was like, you know what? I could definitely do this. Like, there's nothing like watching some other people do it to make you go, you know what, I could do this. So I took a short comedy class, met a bunch of people, and 4 years later, here we are. I'm working pretty regularly as a comedian right now. I think I have 14 engagements this month, so it's about as much as I want. I'm grateful for the night off tonight.
Yeah. Who did you take your stand-up comedy class with?
I don't think he teaches anymore, but Don Garrett, who's a great local comedian. Other classes I would recommend would be Jason Allen King teaches a great class regularly as well. Lauren Ansley occasionally teaches a class too. Any of those 3, highly recommend.
I think it's great seeing so many folks take a chance on a class in Charlotte and become enmeshed in this community together.
I know there's a lot of people that are like, oh, comedy class, and they kind of look down on that. You should really get out there in the mics and grind it out and everything. But I'll say, like, I met so many great people through Dawn that kind of got me started on the right foot. So even though it didn't stop me from having to go do any of the work, do any of the writing, it definitely kind of fast-tracked who I should know. I met a lot of fantastic people that I still work with today. And weirdly enough, so our mutual friend, Lauren Ansley, she was producing a show that Dawn was on while I was going to his class. And I tagged along just to watch the show. And she put me up. I was like 3 weeks into comedy, and she put me up for like a 5-minute guest spot at the beginning of it for this amazing crowd. Some people wait like years to get that experience. Got it in like the first 3 weeks. And so that was sort of bad. It was like giving me a hit a little too soon, you know? And, you know, I never stopped chasing that feeling.
I took the class with Lauren Ansley, actually. That's how I met her. I loved her class so much because it was a stand-up comedy class specifically just for women.
Yes.
Ours was a 6-week course of writing our first set and then performing it. Can you talk about maybe like Don's class? Was it structured differently?
He started off talking about just professionalism and etiquette and how to use the stage, but we did spend the majority of the time writing. That was probably my biggest problem going into this because I'm a writer. I went to school for technical and professional writing, so I want to write like a lot and I want to use like 50 words. And as you know, in comedy, word economy is crucial. And so I was writing these like long sentences. They were funny, but they weren't as funny as they could be. And so, you know, a couple years ago, I was writing regularly with Johnny Millwater, and we would meet and write at the Comedy Zone, and we put on a monthly show for a while, and we actually produced a holiday show at the Comedy Zone a couple years ago. And I learned so much from writing with him because he was like, no, take that word and put it here, take out these 2 words and just say this word. And there is so much a formula to it that once you start seeing the ones and zeros behind it, it gets so much easier to write. Anyone can be funny in a conversation, but when you're trying to be funny for an audience, right, it's so different. And so Don was the first person that said, hey dude, this is great, but like, make it like this much. You've really got like 2 minutes of material and this 5 minutes of material here, and then we've got to build more up.
Lauren would always talk about the laughs per minute. I noticed as well that I was one of those, whenever I would write, it was always like I'm popping in little quips here and there. It's not like jokes. They're not like punchlines.
Yeah.
So learning to think that way was definitely like a little bit of a flip for me, but it was a really effective way to write more, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's totally valid. And I like to think of it as my set list is like a roadmap. I'm like on this road and I know where I'm going and I kind of know where the stops are, but I might find a little detour, right? While I'm up there on stage, something funny might happen. Somebody in the audience might say something might occur to me, and I'll take a little detour, but I know where the road is, right? And I'm going back to that road as opposed to being like, I have no idea where I am now, I'm lost in the woods. That just comes right with years of doing it and doing the material over and over and being really, really confident in it so that if something does happen in the moment, I've had stuff like that happen and become like part of my set later, you know, and that's great, but you can't do it if you get lost, you know, in the woods.
So after your guys' courses of the writing and everything, you guys had like a showcase?
We did it. We had a showcase and we had a smaller class. So our showcase involved having a bunch of like really, really great stand-up comedians be on it with us. And so I had a bunch of people turn up to see me, but they got to see Jordan Sentry and Shane Lane and Will Spann and Max Summers, I want to say, were on my graduation showcase. So it felt like a show that you would pay to go see out in the city. And so I was really grateful. All those people I'm still, you know, friends with to this day. All the people that I met through Don and Don's class. I would have known them eventually, right? But I got my foot in the door really early. So
and having him vouch for you also helps so
like
much.
Comedy classes, I think the 2 things that they're great for are writing and community. Comedy can be a lonely road, as you probably know, right? We're literally on the lonely road sometimes by ourselves, going to a place we've never been before. And so the more friends that you have, the more people you can trust that kind of have your back and you have their back, I think that makes it so much easier, so much better. You can look at my flyers for the shows that I produce and you'll see I book a lot of the same people a lot of the time. Those are the people that I enjoy hanging out with. I like their material, yes, but also who do I want to hang out with backstage or like while I'm waiting to go up? You got to be cool, you know?
Definitely. There is a stand-up community, which I think is great, and we do kind of vouch for each other and reach out to each other. There's a lot of collaboration, and I love that. I think that's kind of something that seems not as common in other cities, unfortunately.
There's a weird thing that I've noticed, and I'm older, obviously, like, don't tell anybody, but I'm going to be 48 this year, so I feel like I'm like the how do you do, fellow kids like meme, you know? I see it. It's younger people are kind of more emotionally guarded in general. I mean, I was when I was that age as well, and so that kind of manifests in being cool to like put myself out there. And so I see a lot of that, and I saw a lot of it when I got started, like after COVID, when the scene kind of was turning over. It was a little more cool kids, not cool kids, and people kind of guarded and keeping to themselves. I think we've come a long way in the last like 4 years where we have a really cohesive scene. I think everybody's really pulling for each other. There's not a lot of, you know, what you call bad actors out there that are like causing problems or making a scene at a venue or things like that. So we're the most professional I think we've been in the time that I've, witnessed.
Definitely.
Local.
It's interesting when you said the phrase turning over, because it does seem like the stand-up scene evolves quite a bit. There's people that dabble in it and then they like stop, and then there's people that like go really hard and then like take a break. And it seems like what's cool about it is there's always kind of new people that you're meeting, or you're always gonna run into different folks you can kind of vibe with or bounce stuff off of.
Right.
Which
Charlotte's a neat city too, right? Because it's kind of transitional, I think, because people kind of come in and out from like in the finance world. It's a place that like young people come to, I think, when they're growing up, and then they kind of move out. And we've had some really great comedians leave and go places. So it's a place for people. They're coming and going, and then we've got a bunch of really talented people that have like come into the scene in the last couple of years as well from other cities, where they've brought that kind of bigger city mentality, work ethic, comedy style, and it's all been great. We're like this big melting pot city where we're making our own thing, I think, out of all these other parts.
Yeah, it seems to me that there's a lot more independent show producers in Charlotte.
I think that's fair, and I argue there are a lot of really good show producers, independent show producers in Charlotte. You can see shows in other scenes, and there's good ones and there's bad ones.
Sure.
But I feel like you got a few people here that are like just really like Mont Kramer comes to mind. He's got like I don't even know how many rooms that guy has at this point, but he literally treats comedy like a business, and in the best sense of the word. Like he's professional. He's got good equipment. He's got good venues. He does all the right things.
Yeah, he books good people.
Yeah, absolutely. And he pays well, and all that stuff just leads to. I've heard the argument that like, oh yeah, the more we pay people to do comedy, fewer shows they're willing to do. They start to get an inflated opinion of themselves, or they this or that. But I would argue what we say in NSA, in National Speakers Association, is a rising tide lifts all boats.
Yeah.
And so I try to pay people well and charge a premium for tickets and do things in areas where they don't have comedy as regularly, so people don't have to drive into the city. And I would argue, like, let's all take in more money for comedy, and let's all pay people more money for doing it. Raise the quality and raise the standard of the art form in general. So that's my take on it as a lowly, fourth year. I mean, right, if we all make great shows, there's going to be more appetite for comedy, and therefore there's going to be more great shows, and therefore there's going to be more opportunities for everybody. I think there's the scarcity mindset or the abundance mindset, and the scarcity mindset says, okay, there's a limited number of shows, and I'm not going to let Curbs get this one because I'm going to get on this show, and then there's the abundance mindset says, hey, you know what? Nicole's going to do this show this month. I'm going to do this show this month. Next month, we're each going to do that show. There's plenty of shows to go around.
One thing I find really interesting about the shows you produce is that you do them in the neighborhoods around Charlotte that are like a stone's throw away from the major city.
Yeah.
But you also have butts and seats at your shows.
It's very intentional. People that are like 20 and 30 minutes outside of the city, they don't want to pay for all those other things. They want to like go down the street to their local spot, catch a comedy show, get a meal at home, or like right down the street from their house, and get in bed at a decent hour. And so I've had tremendous success with, Fort Mill and down in Clover and like a little ways outside of Charlotte. Matthews, if I had one word that I'd want to be associated with me, it would be quality. I think I produce a quality show with a quality lineup and in a quality venue. Now, it works out to about quarterly, and I kind of stagger out my shows, so I'm doing something every month.
Yeah,
but
I did want to ask about that actually. So aside from being a comedy show producer, you're also a comedian that is booked and busy. You're also a full-time employee. You also are a public speaker and a dad and a husband. So I ask, how do you balance it all? Are you okay? Because I can't, and I don't have half the things going on in my life that you do.
I'm mostly okay.
Okay.
I built this foundation. For us, getting married, marriage was easy, but having kids was a little more difficult. Once we had them, they're a lot, and it was like survival mode for a few years, and we both had full-time jobs. Basically, we're swinging like 6 bats at a time. If I tried to add anything outside of my marriage onto that at that time, forget about it. Like, everything would have imploded. My kids are now old enough that they're either able to at least stay out of the way and not cause trouble, and at best, my daughter, she runs the music at my open mic.
She's the coolest kid in the comedy scene. I
infamous.
really want her to like me, like really bad.
She definitely does, as far as we know. I don't think she likes me. So, it's, I wish I would have started in the 90s. But I also have A, the stability, and B, the life experience. I have almost 50 years of material to draw from, and that makes it authentic. And so I wouldn't do it any other way, honestly. I have my days where I'm like, what am I even doing? I'm too old to do this. But every day when I get up, I go, in general, am I doing like an upward trajectory with my career, and am I having fun? If the answer to either of those things becomes no for a consistent enough period of time, I'm out. My advice would be check in with yourself. And I'll tell you something that Lauren told me when I was getting started, which is take care of your family first. You've got to have them in mind for everything that you do, because if that falls apart, everything else falls apart.
Regarding your material, you do joke about your cancer diagnoses, yes. It affects and it impacts so many people, but I'm sure that it's also cathartic for them to hear these jokes about these things, and especially if they're struggling with it. When did you decide to maybe start writing about it, or like what's your approach with talking about it?
Sure. Interested really, really early talking about it because it's such a huge part of my life, but I wasn't wielding it effectively. And so I had to take a step back, figure out how to get people to like me first before I kind of dip my foot into those waters. And so that's where all the family stuff came in. It was very like, everybody can relate to that. Nobody thinks you're being disrespectful if you're making fun of the fact that your kids are assholes and
right.
you know, your wife doesn't like you sometimes. But then when I get them to like me or get them to understand me, then I kind of like break into the cancer material. I even literally say, hey, I'm not trying to make fun of this. I'm not trying to make light of it. And I have a little joke that goes with that. And inevitably at any show that I do it, somebody will come up to me and they'll be like, hey, you know, I just want you to know, just lost my mom to cancer, or like my dad's going through this right now. And I really appreciated you being able to joke about that because he or she would always joke about it when we were going through it. I had one show where a woman had lost her husband to cancer and she had been like a homebody for 6 months, and her friends finally convinced her to come out that night to a comedy show for the first time. And she was like, oh man, and then to hear you like be able to joke about that and everything, she's like, that was what I needed to like keep going and feel, you know, like I was starting to heal. So I don't take that lightly. I don't ever want to disrespect that topic because not everybody can laugh at it the same way that I can, but I do take it as a challenge that I think I can unite people through talking about it. That's my thing about comedy. So I think the most important thing for comedy to be is uniting. So that's all I'm trying to do.
I don't know that there's necessarily a right or wrong way to joke about cancer as a survivor, because I mean, kind of feels like, well, you've got a free pass to kind of like approach this however you want to. It's your story. And also like it's a miraculous thing to be able to live through it and talk about it and joke about it.
It's undeniable that a sense of humor or being able to laugh is good for you physically, emotionally, spiritually, all these things. It's just, there's a fine line now, I think, between funny and not funny for some people, and it's depending on how close you are to something, right? And I feel like sometimes you can make people laugh with discomfort or laugh uncomfortably, and that's not something that I personally want to do.
I would say that you, as a comedian, you're very thoughtful about your audience and the material that you're throwing out there.
Over the last 3+ years, I've hosted an open mic, and that taught me so much how to look around at a room, address the audience, help them out. Your job as a host, it's a weird like ringmaster job where you're like spinning all the plates, but also if you do it right, you're the least memorable person on the show because they weren't like, man, that host sucked, you know?
Yeah.
They're just like, hey, that was a great show. It's a weird magic trick if you do it right.
Right now in your phase of your comedy career, what would feel like success to you?
I'm weird because I'm always like, I'm giving myself just random goals that seem fun. Like it or not, I have less time ahead of me than I have time behind me, so I'm trying to make that all be fun. So I do stupid things like, I want to get paid to do comedy in every state. I have a map that I'm scratching off states as I do it, and so if I can knock out a couple of states a year and see how far I can get. I have another dumb goal that I want to guest host every open mic in Charlotte in the next couple of years.
Well, thank you so much for sitting down with me.
Absolutely.
I appreciate it.
Thanks for the treats.
Oh, of course. Thanks again so much for watching. Please like and subscribe so that you can watch more local comedians, drink local coffee, and talk about comedy and stuff.